What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. I'm also going to break down why there's a very, very big amount of opportunity in Tesla looking at the current setup. When we zoom out and go to the daily time frame, we could be forming a very large inverse head and shoulders, a nice accumulation that could launch the share price up as time goes on. So I'm going to break down more information about this. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. And deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. The offer ends at the end of July, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with this market. So, looking at Tesla, we have a very, very nice looking setup right here. One thing I'm noting is that this could be looking like a left shoulder. Our head is this quadruple bottom right over here. And then our right shoulder could be forming if we could form a base right here around 325 to 333 in that range. And then once we form that base, as we start to progress towards the end of June, we could be looking for an attempt to push for this 404 targets to fill that gap, forming an inverse head and shoulders. Now, I get people think I'm crazy for saying this. I completely understand why you may be frustrated, but never forget the power of what Tesla could do when they have lots of hype, and never rule out the possibility of how high this share price could go. Now, for the short term, let me just say that this is what our setup looks like for now. But when you go back, right, and we look at the setups, when we go to like our 30 minutes time frame, we just want to see where Tesla forms a base, right? We might see a little bit of a pullback move again before it tries to form this accumulation. But as time goes on, this could be looking for a very, very big push. And I believe that as we approach the end of June, there's going to be a lot of potential for upside. I also want to add that when you look at our weekly chart, for example, we're holding up well. We're still kind of like indecisive on this week. So we're going to see where this forms its base before it tries to reaccumulate. But on the weekly, when you really zoom out, this also resembles a cup and handle, another bullish confluence for the share price. So with this accumulation right over here, we're going to see if we get a dip and a bounce as time goes on. So I'll talk more about the details in just a couple of minutes. What else is really good for Tesla is the fact that the market is trying to rebound after some big news came out involving President Trump and China, which I'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. So I say this because when you look at SPY, this is also starting to form a cup and handle. We're starting to invalidate this head and shoulders. Unless SPY loses like 585 to turn bearish, like as long as that doesn't happen, we might dip here, then start to bounce. And if we start to break this high right here, we're going to be looking for an attempt to start breaking out, and that could also be bullish for Tesla. It's easier for Tesla to run if the whole market's about to run than it is for Tesla to dump when the whole market's trying to run, right? So there's a very, very good chance that Tesla's going to be forming a base soon. We might come down a little bit tomorrow morning, but once we form that base, we're going to be looking for a very, very big bounce. I'm going to break down exactly why that is by talking about the news first. So let's first talk about the news, and I'll break down more information about Tesla stock. Just know this, when we look at our data, at least historically, Wedbush said that Tesla's going to outperform the market, which is very, very good news. And then the price price ratio is actually telling us that, I'm sorry, the price price ratio is right here. It's telling us that Tesla's been showing some weakness for the last couple of days, but we're still technically very strong compared to before. This could dip a bit more if Tesla's a little bit weak for like a week or so, but then as time goes on, I do think this is going to start climbing once Tesla starts to run. I also want to note that when you look at SPY and Tesla, they do tend to have very similar trends. Same thing with Tesla and the Triple Q. They tend to have very, very similar trends with one another. So what this means is that when the QQQ and the whole market starts to run higher, we'll see if we get a small dip first before it starts to run. When the market starts running, Tesla loves to follow the trend. You guys can see that quite clearly. That's going to be a good sign for us. Tuesday tends to be green 51.55% of the time, and we also tend to see more volatility around noon and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, when it comes to monthly seasonality, June tends to be green 80% of the time. 80% of the time we win in June. That's some great news. It's a very strong month for Tesla, historically one of the strongest months of the year. So I still think there's going to be a lot of upside potential looking at the share price. So what's happening to Tesla? Why did we dip a little bit, and what does this mean for us? Like I said before, as the saying goes, when others are fearful, that's the time to be greedy. Look at this as an opportunity, because I do think that Tesla could be running for $400 within the next 4 weeks. It's still very, very possible. Why do I say that? Let's talk about exactly what's going on. So, first off, Tesla sold off a bit. The whole market did come down a bit because of the tensions between the US and China. Actually, what happened initially was China came out and they're saying that the US has violated their trade agreements because of how they are dealing with the chip export controls. This was not the best of news, and that started us off on a bad note. So that's why the market saw a bit of a dip. And then Tesla had some bad news for itself about how its European sales came down. The Norwegian sales were pretty good, nice increase in Norway, but in Spain, Portugal, France, Sweden, Denmark, and many other European countries, the sales were down quite a bit, between 20 and about 60 plus percent. Not the best of news, not the best of news whatsoever. So that's the reason why we saw Tesla dip a little bit, but I just see that as another buying opportunity. Now, why is Tesla bullish? Well, you have to keep in mind we have this Robo Taxi event, which is scheduled to be possibly on June 12th, according to some insider sources. However, it might be at least by the end of June because that is what Tesla has confirmed. I don't think Tesla's confirmed June 12th. They're saying the end of June. So we'll see. But nonetheless, it's still very, very bullish. I think Tesla's going to be making a very nice move as we approach this date. So make sure you're ready for this as time goes on. On top of this, Tesla also has filed its trademark applications for the new Tesla Robotaxi. Although in the past they had some complications with that, but that's still another step in the right direction, which shows that Tesla is truly getting ready for the big launch. They're getting ready to launch this thing, and this is going to be big for them because it could be opening up a new revenue stream. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to be like a massive launch of like 10,000 vehicles. It's going to be only 10 vehicles to start things off. I believe there's going to be a lot of hype with this, and there's going to be a lot of buyers that step in approaching the event. So yes, this could run approaching the event, but we'll have to see what happens after that. So keep that in mind. I just want to say, approaching the big event, there's going to be a very, very big move to the upside. There's been some news about how some insiders are selling their Tesla shares. We have like Kimball, Musk, and many others that are doing this. But this is not something that happened overnight, like the way some mainstream sources are making it seem. For many months, Kimball, Musk, and many others, they've been selling their Tesla stock, many board members. It's been happening for many months, maybe because of like personal reasons and for other reasons like that. But nonetheless, the majority of investors are still holding their positions, and we're actually getting big buy orders at the same time, right? I'm not saying mainstream media talking about the huge buy orders, expecting 450 a share for the call option, which is getting lots of open interest right now for Tesla stock. So keep that in mind. There's still a lot of buyers simultaneously. It's not like everyone's just selling. And there is a lot of potential for the share price. So what happened to Tesla in the market was that we started off with the dip in the morning, like we were predicting, but then we started to bounce as the day went on. Looking at SPY, Tesla, the QQQ, and many others, we started off weak, consolidating, then we got this big bounce. Why is the market bouncing? There's another reason why. Tesla started to bounce thanks to the overall market. There's some news that came out that President Trump is not going to be reviving the 25% tariff on GPUs for at least another 3 months. That's good news because for the Chinese assembled GPUs, graphics cards, motherboards, and computer parts, they're not going to be subjected to high tariffs for a good while. They still have until August 31st. That's a big improvement from when they were like attacking one another, right? We saw the US accusing China of violating agreements. We saw China doing the same thing to the US. Instead of them continuing to argue, now we're seeing some of these tariffs being delayed, which is good news, thanks to Section 301 of the tariff exclusions. So that's good news. Now, many tariff exclusions are going to be extended until the end of August. This is including many computer parts, semiconductors, GPUs, and etc. That's some good news. Also, some more good news is that President Trump is going to be speaking with Xi Jinping, according to many White House officials and the White House. That's massive news because, if they come up with a big agreement, if there's a good trade deal, that could cause a lot of volatility and a good move, at least for the share price. So we'll see what President Trump and Xi Jinping come up with. That could be big news for us. I don't know exactly when they're going to be speaking. We're just going to have to see about that. On top of this, tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, June 3rd. We have the JOLTS job openings at 10 a.m. Then we have a bunch of Fed speakers. We'll see what the JOLTS numbers lead to. We had Jerome Powell giving a speech who talks about how the Fed has to be very critical with their policies. They're going to fundamentally change the way they look at things. And he basically said the same things over again about how they have to just be very, very wary of the implications of their policies and how there's been a lot of progress on inflation, but they have to be careful. Waller from the Fed is saying he wants to see more cuts because he doesn't think the inflationary risks are going to be that bad. So there's been some good news from the Fed. Some Fed officials want to see some cuts. The market's at greed. We're going to see if this lasts or not, and we're going to see if momentum becomes less fearful as time goes on. The put to call option ratio is neutral, so we'll see how that goes. And the same thing with the VIX. Tomorrow we just have Neo announcing earnings, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, and a bunch of retail, so keep that in mind. Anyways, enough about all this news. Let's focus now on the charts. So what's happening with the charts? In all honesty, we're looking pretty good right now. Tesla has kind of like an inverse head and shoulders like structure, but I wouldn't be surprised if we come down a bit for 340 to 338 tomorrow. And we're going to see if we get a bounce from here, if we could hold 337. If we lose 337, we're looking for 333, then 330 is our main supports. So make sure you watch your levels just to be safe. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, as you guys can tell, we're trying to form a base right here. We're going to see if we get some kind of rebound or not. And if we break past 350 to turn a lot more bullish, but I anticipate there's going to be a big move coming eventually. For tomorrow specifically, I do think Tesla's going to see some range-bound price action the daytime. I don't think we're ready to just break out yet. But then as time goes on, I do think there's going to be a big bounce coming. Look for a small dip tomorrow and some consolidation like this. Then we're going to see if we could get a breakout soon as we approach later on into this week or next week. If we break 345, we're looking for 348 to 350. If we lose 337, we're looking for 333. I think we trade sideways in this range between 337 and 340 for some time. Then we could be breaking out as time goes on. So keep that in mind. As far as SPYs going, we're looking bullish because there's a lot of optimism with all the new Chinese news about President Trump speaking with Xi Jinping and the new tariff exclusions that have been extended on China. That's good news for the markets. Now, we had this head and shoulders like structure that's been invalidated, or it's starting to invalidate right now. It's trying to invalidate this, and instead of forming like head and shoulders, right? If you want to be bearish, you want to see SPY essentially lose 585 to start dumping. As of right now, we touch 585 today, then we just bounce, which shows that we're still holding up well. When I look at this and just remove everything, look at this, guys. It looks like a cup and handle that's trying to form on SPY. We're now trying to turn back to bullish if we could hold our key levels. So in case we lose 585, we're bearish. As long as we're above 590, we're bullish. I think that right now what's going to happen is that tomorrow SPY might be retesting 590 or so, consolidate between 588 to 590. Then as time goes on, we can start pushing for 595 or above for a nice reaccumulation, forming a cup and handle, and we're doing a great job at least thus far. So we could be forming a 595 as a potential target, and we're looking good on the 30-minute time frame. On the 4-hour time frame, we look good. There's also a cup and handle like structure. There's an imbalance over here, so we do love to fill those. So we are starting to favor upside, right? If we lose 590, we're looking for 585. If that fails us, yes, that's going to be a little bit more bearish, but there's no sign of us losing 585. Every time we touch that, we just get a big bounce thanks to Jerome Powell, thanks to President Trump, or whatever the catalyst is. So we're looking bullish as of right now. We're favoring that we might be seeing a retest of 590, then a bounce. As long as we make a higher low, we're favoring a push for 595 or above. And if SPY, the QQQ, and many others are bouncing, we could see Tesla dip, but then bounce and start to push for 350 very soon. So I anticipate a dip and consolidation on Tesla, and eventually I do think this is going to be bouncing for 350 plus. I also think we're going to be running to $400 by the end of the month, in my personal opinion. For the QQQ, we have a nice accumulation right over here, a nice cup and handle like structure. Now, if we lose 515, we're looking for a dump back down towards the 508 area. As long as we're above our support, as long as we can try to break and hold above 523, we're favoring a push for essentially 530. Now we're forming a cup and handle, and if you look at the daily time frame, let me just hide these real quick and show you this. The daily is looking pretty good on the QQQ. We're favoring that we want to go higher. As long as we're above 523, we're favoring 526. And if that breaks, we're going to be going back up near all-time highs. We look bullish, guys. So we'll see if we could hold above 515 for confirmation, but we're looking more bullish. So to be frank, okay, let me go over the levels and I'll talk about what I think is going to happen. As long as we don't lose 515, we're looking pretty good. And it is possible we try to retest these lower EMAs at 520 to 523. But as long as we're above 523, by the time we progress, we're going to be favoring a push for 525, then eventually 530. We look more bullish, so look for some consolidation here before we try to break out. We're now trying to form a bullish structure. The IWM is kind of choppy, not really doing a whole lot. We're just kind of going back and forth like this. We're just kind of going back and forth like this. There's not really much going on with it. So If we break 206.5, we're looking for 208. If we lose 202, we're more bearish. Might dip here, bounce and trade sideways, and then we'll see if we break past 208 as time goes on. On ES, we're looking pretty good. Let me zoom out and show you this. We're forming a very clear looking cup and handle now. We're trying to invalidate the head and shoulders, so now we're starting to look bullish again. Also, you'll notice that right here we have like a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. If we dip, we might be retesting the lower 5900s, but as long as that holds, we're looking for a bounce and an attempt to get back up to 5950, then eventually 6000 if that breaks. So my prediction is that we dip tomorrow a little bit. We might see a retest of about 5925 to 5900. And as long as we're above these supports, as long as we're making higher lows, we're favoring a nice rebound in an attempt to get back up to the higher 5900s to get close to about 6000. For NQ, we also have a slanted inverse head and shoulders. Now, as long as we break 21,500, we're looking for an attempt to push for about 21,700. Also, this is forming kind of like a cup and handle. So we're looking pretty good. Now, with this inverse head and shoulders right here, we have a left shoulder, we have a head, then we have a right shoulder. As long as we don't lose 21,380, we're looking for a bounce and attempt to push to higher levels. So keep that in mind. For Bitcoin, we're looking a little bit more bullish. We have a nice looking cup and handle as well. If we break past 106,000, we're looking for an attempt for 106,800. As long as we don't lose 104,700, we're looking quite good. Once again, favoring the upwards direction. So we have a nice looking cup and handle, and we could be looking for an attempt for 106,000 if this continues. Like I said about Tesla, we could be retesting 337 to 340 again for some consolidation, but then there could be a bounce coming if this is like an inverse head and shoulders. So there's potential for Tesla. If we see a small dip here, this could be our next potential play, and this could be trying to bounce as time goes on. On Nvda, we're looking bullish, nice double bottom here. I want to see us hold above 136 as long as that holds. We could dip and then bounce and look for an attempt for 140 plus. I do think that's what's going to likely happen. If we lose 135, we could dump more, but as long as we hold 136, we're looking for that bounce. On Aapl, we're looking pretty good inverse head and shoulders that's starting to form. If we end up losing 200, though, we're looking for a dip to 198. We might test that, but as long as that holds, we're looking for an attempt to push for like 205 off an inverse head and shoulders. For Netflix, we're looking pretty good. We have a nice looking double bottom here. If we end up losing 1,215, we're looking for essentially 1,200. As long as we hold that, we're looking for a bounce towards 1,225 as we look more bullish. MSR looks good. As long as we're above 375, we're favoring 380. If we lose 371, we're looking for a dip. There's a double bottom here, so we're favoring 375 plus. Celsius, we're going to go to the 4-hour time frame. It's starting to form a double bottom. It looks pretty good right now. I don't want to see us lose 37 as long as we're above that. I think we're favoring 38.8. The market's bouncing. Semiconductors are bouncing with the Chinese export controls change. That's some good news. If we lose 40.75, look for a dip on Supermicro. As long as we're above that, though, we're favoring 42. Palantir's looking bullish off a triple bottom. As long as we don't lose 130, we're favoring 132.5, and then eventually 135. Rivian's going to be dipping a bit to 13.75. If we hold this, we're looking for a big bounce. If we lose this, I think we dump lower. Watch 13.75. We have to bounce off that tomorrow. I think we might. We'll see just to be safe if we get good news or something. SoFi, inverse head and shoulders. If we lose, so we're at resistance right here. If we lose this area, we could be dipping to like 13.5. But we need to bounce. We need to break past 13.7 to break out more. So we'll see if that ends up happening. For AMD, we're looking more bullish. The semiconductor news was very bullish involving China. As long as we don't lose 112.8, we're favoring 116. ARM is looking a bit more bullish. We are favoring upside. If we break 122, we're bullish. Sorry, not 120, not 122, 128. If we break that, we're bullish. If we lose 122.4, we're bearish. Let me correct myself. I think we might be retesting 128, and we'll see if we bounce from there. PayPal's doing a good job as long as we're above 170.7. We're looking for a push for 72. If we end up losing 69.4, we're dipping back down. I want to see us kind of dip a little bit to retest 70. And we have to bounce off that. Coinbase could be testing 252. If that breaks, we're looking for essentially 258. Amazon is now forming an inverse head and shoulder. So long as we don't lose 203, we're favoring a push back up to 210. For Meta, we have a bearish divergence. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders here. I need to see us hold above this level right here, 664. If we could hold that, I think we might retest that tomorrow. If we bounce, we're going to continue for 680 plus. If we lose 664, we dump back down to like 650. So I want to see us hold that for confirmation. Google needs to get back above 171.5 to bounce. If we lose 168, we turn back down. We're going to see if we dip and then bounce from here. MSFT or Microsoft is looking bullish. As long as we're above 458, we're favoring 462. For a few more, we have DJT. As long as we're holding support, we're looking for 22.1 and eventually 23. The VIX is rejecting off a head and shoulders. It could be dipping to fill this gap. If we lose 18, we're looking for 17.3, which tends to be bullish. The 10-year and the dollar are going to be reacting to what happens from the Fed and any other pieces of news like the JOLTS numbers. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, Tesla, it might retest 340 to 337, but I want to see this form a base in the next couple of days. We need to form that base. And then I do anticipate the much larger move is going to be an upside move for the 400 target by the time we approach the end of June as we get close to the Robotaxi launch. So keep that in mind, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. Please enjoy the rest of your guys' days. And I'll be back very soon with an update for tomorrow. Thank you for listening and peace out.